In this video, we're going to talk about clamshell lighting. I'm Daniel Norton. Welcome to my studio here in New York City. I'm here with Cadence. And we've been talking about fill light lately, and clamshell is one of those things that people always ask, what about clamshell? So clamshell lighting is basically when you have one light from above, that's your key light, your main light, and then your secondary light is coming from below. It's very popular. Sometimes we use reflectors, right? You'll see us do that in shots, and that kind of is clamshell lighting. But when you're using lights to do it, there's a few tips that I kind of want to talk about that'll kind of make it look even better. Number one, I'm going to use clamshell lighting almost always when my key light is such that I can't put a reflector in and I can't do on-axis fill, which is what I would normally do. So very specifically, a beauty dish with a grid, for instance, it's really hard to get a reflector in there. And if you're doing beauty shots and you're real tight up on top of the subject, sometimes having the on-axis doesn't really work that well because you're blocking it all. So a beauty shot is the perfect time to use clamshell lighting. So let's look at how we have it set up here. Couple things. As noted, beauty dish with grid on top. You'll notice my light below is not flat underneath her. I see people doing this all the time. They take the second light and they put it right under their chin like you would a reflector. Well, with a reflector, you need to do that, right? Because you got to be where the light can bounce back. But when you can control your light, you don't really want to do that. So the proper way to do it is to actually have your secondary light almost flat. Because remember, the light spreads out of a softbox. So you can see that my softbox is actually here below her, just slightly tilted up. I'll probably tilt up a tiny bit more, but not much more. I don't want it directly under her chin. I want it to spread out and light her face. Basically, if I was to use this light, it would look like an odd, not quite universal horror movie light, but kind of there by itself, right? That's where I want it. I don't want it directly like flashlight under the chin, but I want it kind of that weird shadow in the eye. So let me just show you what this light looks like. I think that'll help. So again, this is just what was effectively be the fill light. Everything's in TTL right now. Okay, so I'm in TTL and we'll take a shot with just the bottom light. And we can see exactly like I said, it's kind of this, her face is lit, right? It's evenly lit. It just has kind of a weird shadow up over her nose because the light's below her, but it's not stark shadow above her. Because think about it, wherever the shadow is, there's no fill, right? So we want the fill to cover as much of her face as possible. And that's what we've got here. There's basically light, not perfectly even, but basically light all over her whole face. Now the exposure and stuff is not correct, of course, so let's get to that. So whenever you're setting up a fill light, you always want to set up your key first. So I'm just going to turn this guy off, go back to my top light. This is again a beauty dish with grid. I'm in TTL. I'm just going to take one shot and see what we get. Perfect, right? That's a nice shot. Now we just want to fill it in with the clamshell. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this off for a second. Actually, you know what? Let's take a risk. We always like to do that. I'm going to leave it in TTL. I'm going to turn the B light on, which is my fill, and I'm just going to dial it down 2 stops. Now, I do 2 stops because that's basically the maximum you can do in TTL on this unit. I'm probably going to want 3 stops, but let's do 2 stops to get us there. Oh, actually, that's not bad. I take it back. That's pretty perfect. Okay, so we look at this and we can see that, again, we have that beautiful butterfly light and we have fill under her chin, but we have light over her whole face. It's not like super bright under her chin. It's kind of balanced and it looks good. And you can, again, just like any fill light, we can play with this. I'm going to switch to manual. I'm going to dial the B light down 1/3 of a stop, just to give a little bit less fill. Depending on your subject, you may want more or less fill. Yeah, I think that's good like that. And what we're getting here is this beautiful soft light across her whole face, filled in, and it gives her a lot of room to move because if she moves her chin down very low with the beauty dish, normally with no fill, right, that would cause a lot of shadow. If she puts it up, it would be nice. So we can see her go in all different directions. We'll just shoot a few. And like the ideal situation is just looking straight ahead with the chin slightly up and boom. And that's basically a nice, simple clamshell lighting that works. Again, go over it one more time. The fill light should be bigger than the key light. It should not be directly flat underneath her, but rather in front and slightly tilted up. And power-wise, you want it around 2 stops under, exposure-wise, I should say, you want it 2 stops under the key light, and that should give you a nice fill that still leaves shadow, but has a beautiful light over the whole face. I will put Cadence's information in the description below. You guys can follow her. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and ring the bell for notifications, and I'll see you next time.